Welcome to the gents who are here with me.
Thank you.
Moussa from CareerOne and Jack from Decidr. You guys that are joining online as we talk and as we go through this, as I said, it is a very relaxed conversation. We're here to talk about CareerOne largely and transforming recruitment with AI, which is what we are doing, and we are on a path to that, and we've started, and we've got some early results to talk about, but this is very much a relaxed conversation. You will see, you guys who are joining online, you will see 3 poll questions as we go through this. Probably half an hour we'll talk through, so just answer them at your own pace, and then we will leave time for questions. We are very big and passionate about questions. We like to receive questions. If we do not get to your question, I promise we will follow up. We've done a few of these before, and we always follow up with your questions. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll start with intros. Moussa, thank you for joining us, the COO of CareerOne. Jack, Head of Product at Decidr. We are here to talk about transforming recruitment with AI. We will go off in a little bit of different directions. This is a conversation and ask questions, but I might start with you, Moussa. Maybe talk about CareerOne. I'm sure people on the call have heard of the business, but I think it's probably with you talking a little bit about the business, where it's at, where it's come from. So over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Duncan. Thanks for having me, guys. It's wonderful. And it's very special to be part of Decidr, such a game-changing tech. And meeting Jack and yourself, and Jack has been so helpful the last few months. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
CareerOne, we've been around for a couple of decades, actually 2.5 decades now. And, we were born out of the classifieds era of job advertising. And, last few years or so, we've been really thinking about innovating and changing the game, particularly on the candidate side. We believe that, the right candidate experience is going to lead to great outcomes for businesses. And, we've, the CTO and I, Tommy Atsevsky, shout out if you're listening. We've had a vision of how we can do things, and we've been sort of progressing along that pathway for quite some time. But when we met Decidr, it was like winning the lottery, because we could sort of take a huge leap forward in terms of, actually achieving what we want to do and disrupt the space. So we're kind of like at the cusp of it now. We've got these incredible solutions launching into market, and we couldn't be more excited to bring them to market. This discussion, this webinar is just one example of the ways that we're going to be talking to people about this. And I'm probably going to hear myself say the same things over and over again 100 times, because it's worth telling from the top of the mountain. So just a short sort of characterization of what we're trying to do is that matching has been around for quite some time as a concept in recruitment. But at the moment, what we're understanding is that AI can do more for people and actually service people's needs directly. So it's not just about displaying a set of results, it's about what we can do for these candidates. And in turn, obviously what we can do for employers. And, Decidr's mantra around AI actually being the functional tool and having humans in the loop is perfectly aligned with what we're going to do.
Tell me a little bit about your journey specifically on artificial intelligence. Like we talk to multiple customers every week in various verticals, and we don't hear we're scared of AI. We don't think AI can add value. The number one thing we hear is tell us all the things that we could do, but ultimately tell us where to start. I'm interested in your, from a CareerOne point of view, where did this start? Did you guys sit down internally and trying to think about all the things you should do, and then you started with this, or like, where did that journey start where you sat down as a business and said, we should be doing something, let's look at what we could do, and let's start with this? How did that kind of start?
Kind of at the core of our business, at the heart of what we are trying to achieve, and the entire team at CareerOne, we're very passionate about the low funnel sort of outcome that people are trying to achieve. If it's for candidates, it's obviously to get them into an interview. If it's for an employer, it's to find them the right fit and the right person that's not only going to be hired, but make an impact in their organization long term. So we started to think about how our experience could be different to that old classifieds model. And to be honest, we were thinking about that prior to AI becoming this apparatus that can change the game in terms of how we deliver this type of innovation. But in the old world, and we're not talking about the old world, not more than a few years ago, to achieve any level of this kind of innovation was extremely difficult. It's like walking through mud. And the LLMs, and certainly when you layer over what Decidr bring to our business, it just helps us to take a giant leap forward in any direction we want to take the business. So what I would say is that at sort of our heart, we want to improve outcomes. We want to improve that experience. But the technology, the instrument that we've started to use now in Decidr and AI tech, is really the game changer. And I'll just say, for anyone that is not familiar with the space, the way I would characterize traditional job boards is that you kind of play two games on traditional job sites, and that includes like the best job sites in the world today. The first game you play is the numbers game, and we're all familiar with this. Candidates have to apply for numerous roles just to have the idea that they're getting a chance in market. And the second game that's played on job boards is the waiting game. And in any capacity, like that's one of the things that we hate the most, is that you perform an action and you sort of have to wait to hear back or to get any feedback. So what we're trying to do at a high level, we'll probably get into it in more detail in this webinar. We're trying to completely transcend the need for those games to be played for both candidates and employers, and really start to get into this kind of like instantaneous gratification of the hiring process and the job finding process. So,
yeah.
Jack, I might bring you in.
Yeah,
Let's discuss in terms of where Moussa's come from and his thoughts about AI. Let's get into the details of the specific of what Decidr has built for CareerOne.
Yeah, absolutely. So I met when I started here at Decidr, I think it was my second day actually. I got sent to the CareerOne office. A little bit of anxiety, I guess. Hey, welcome on board, by the way. Please go and meet with Moussa and Tom and learn everything you can about the solution that we're building and providing. And
now they're here every day.
And now they're here every day, and I can't get rid of them. No, it's a good thing, mate. It's a good thing. And I go back to that second day here on the ground because I walked away from that office in our meeting. I think it was a 2-hour session where you guys were like, "Great, here's what we're doing. Here's the dream. Let's go make it a reality." And I said to myself, "Where was this 3 years ago? Where was this when I was last looking for a role?" As you just mentioned there, the games that you have to play, the waiting game I laughed at because it's not only a waiting game, it's a building sense of dread of like, hey, I've sent my application, I've had a phone call. When is it coming? And, you start questioning, did I say the right thing? The values, the right pieces. Getting into what we're doing and what we've built with CareerOne, we're reflecting on that point of matching candidates to roles and matching roles or matching, as a business puts out a role, how do we get them the right candidate as quickly as possible? Back to that almost instant gratification that Moussa just mentioned. And so what we've gone ahead and built and is actually running live today is the ability for when a candidate onboards, we capture a large range of data points about that candidate. Not only, I'll touch on a few, feel free to jump in. We're talking about, salary, their home location, where they're willing to work. We had a really good conversation just on those points about, if you're in a metro area, for example, I live in the inner city, are you willing to travel to, the northern beaches to work? Whereas that's a very different game if you're living in the Hunter Valley. For those of you who are not international, Hunter Valley is a regional area about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Sydney. We've actually realized you're more willing to travel a longer distance. And you start asking other questions like, what's the role title that you've had? What's the role title that you're after? Touch on some more, Moussa, just a range of different data points that we're pulling from this candidate.
I think, the best way to talk about what we're looking for out of a candidate, I like to describe it in 3 different segments. So we're trying to find out their suitability. So this is around their career history, their skills, their qualifications, education. we're trying to find out their preferences. So this comes into what a lot of what Jack was talking about around their location, how far they're willing to travel, what industry they want to work in, what management style they like.
Yep.
All these kinds of things are around their preferences. And then there's the third element, which is really sort of central to the way that we are doing talent at the moment, which is around intent. And intent is this beautiful piece of information we get about a candidate that allows the agent to act on their behalf. And I didn't want to take Jack's thunder here as
Oh,
to
mate,
what
steal it.
what
Please,
we-
by all means,
what-
by all means,
you know,
I'll
yeah,
reel it back in. But yeah, keep
please
going.
come back in, because this is really your area. And so what happens is, once we understand a candidate's suitability, then we know what jobs match them, right? And we can sort of cover off matching very quickly and sort of put it behind us. Then once we know their matches, right, the real satisfaction of the platform is that a candidate doesn't need to lift a finger, where typically they'd need to go and apply for
Manually apply
yeah,
for so
40
many
roles,
yeah.
tailor their resumes,
Rewrite it.
write cover letters.
Bane of my existence.
Right.
Yeah.
So
How do I make it look pretty and suitable for
yes.
someone like Duncan, who's reviewing applications coming through?
Totally. So Banjo, through that strong capture of intent of exactly what you want the agent to do for you, Banjo can actually go forward and put you forward for roles in the market and represent you in the best possible light each and every time to various employers. And I know we're already sort of touching on the quality piece, which we'll go into shortly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that really, at a high level, is the vision.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll keep going actually. So with all of those pieces that Moussa's touched on and some of these data fields that I'm talking about, what we're alluding to here is that we're not only capturing wide and varied sets of information from an applicant or a candidate who's searching for a role. When we take that information, they don't have to then continue to actively rewrite a CV, rewrite a cover letter. How do I position myself best forward? The Decidr platform with CareerOne is doing that on their behalf and capturing that intent of, I've held a role title of a product manager. There are a lot of adjacent roles that I may not be aware of that my skill set actually suits. And so we can actually ask the candidates, hey, we've actually found these other roles that you are highly suitable for, that you're actually a top match in. Do you want to apply for them? And believe it or not, most candidates who are looking for a role, when they ask themselves this question, back to the intent piece, could I see myself doing that role? Actually, I know somebody who has that role. How do I get into it? And now they've got a quite quick solution to be told, you actually have the skills to do this, and you're in the right location, and it's in the same salary band, and
Totally.
and we've matched you to this, and we actually think you're probably the best candidate here.
Yep.
Why don't you put your name forward and actually have that interview?
Let me push you a little bit on challenges, issues. You are a product guy and very good at what you do and solving problems. But I have these conversations every day with CEOs, CFOs in different verticals of how we propose the solutions. There are challenges, there are barriers to anything we do, right?
Absolutely.
The end result, and we'll talk about results and tangible benefit in a second. But I'm very interested in what are some of those challenges. I'm sure people on the call will want to know. For me, when I have other conversations, the biggest barrier I find is the sentiment of the business. If the business has the sentiment to do something and knows their challenges, and I've done that little bit of background of understand, or what could we do with AI, and what is that one big challenge in the business? That's probably the biggest thing. But I'm interested in the coming together of CareerOne and Decidr and what we've built for them, and we'll talk about results in a second. But just maybe elaborate a little bit on the challenges, because I'm sure there were some, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. You've thrown me, I have to go digging back. So challenges around recruitment. Touching on what Moussa mentioned around the classifieds era, and majority of even the top job boards today are still following that same process. Post an ad, receive candidates.
Yep.
I'm a candidate, I've got to go and apply for lots of jobs. Human nature is a very interesting thing, that once humans have decided that a pattern is fine and they've adopted it, it's very hard to change. So inertia to change is usually a very big challenge, and adoption of an actual product. Part of what I find in being in product and addressing market needs and gaps, humans are generally the cause of and solution to their own problems. And I say that with lightheartedness, that the inertia to finding and trusting that we can actually match you to a most suitable role, even if it's not the exact same job title, then putting forward your information in a correct and true manner to be able to match you correctly. And then on the opposite side of that, a business receiving a candidate. And I think, Moussa, we talked about this maybe, my third day here when I went back to your office, just the anecdote of, hey, you're sending me a candidate, and this is well before Decidr Solution was there. And you said you'd spoken with a business who had posted a job ad and received a candidate back and had asked, why am I receiving this candidate? They'd only had, they'd been working as I think a receptionist.
I've told this story so many times.
Yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
It's come back, right? And it's like they actually have no skills for this role that you've put them forward to. And you'd realize that this business hadn't actually opened this candidate CV and realized that they actually had 10 years of experience looking for this role. They'd just taken a career break, had landed a different job in the meantime.
Yes.
And so another challenge there, touching on it, is our attention spans are pretty short as humans, right? Especially in this digital age. I purposely don't wear a smartwatch, although working in tech, because I hate things that beep at me. The joke I've been hearing around lately is I'm not a Tamagotchi. I don't need to be walked and run and watered and fed. But touching on that point, humans are really good at seeing something visual and taking an action. We're less good at reading a lot of information, absorbing it, and then taking an action. And as evidenced by that anecdote story that Moose has put forward, another challenge there is, if we're AI matching and we're putting a candidate forward in their absolute best light to another human, we need to make sure that we're doing it in a short, I guess, soundbite or in this, like a pitch to say, look, trust us that this person has these skills. We know that they have these skills. Our data shows that they have these skills to do this role, but their previous role is probably not adjacent at all or not in the realm of thinking of where your experience as a recruiter or a business has gone.
Yep.
So touching on a few challenges there: inertia, attention span, willingness to adopt a new solution.
Okay, let's jump forward and talk about results, because we do have some quite exciting results, and we've spoken publicly about these in the last few days. And I think there's two sides of it. I think you alluded to this at the very start, Moussa. There's two sides of the CareerOne business. There is employers and there's candidates.
Yes.
And we're seeing some very exciting results from our early stage piece of work that Jack was responsible for. So on the employer side, we're seeing a 65% increase, and that is, employers now being matched to 65% more job seekers, which is fantastic. And on the job seeker side, we're seeing job seekers now being matched to an average 8 employers. So that previously was 1. So we've got a 65% increase on the employer side value, and we've got an 8x increase on the job seeker side. It's early days, but we are very, very excited and quite obsessed as a business about tangible value, and that's what we're starting to see. So we're very excited. I do want to touch not very briefly, probably more detailed actually, on quality. So when I think about recruitment as a business leader, I think about 3 things. I think about speed, quality, and fit. Speed, how quickly can we find people, good people? Quality, are they good people? And fit, are they going to fit into the business? Fit is subjective, and it's, there's idiosyncrasies about different businesses, and it's culture, it's other things. So I'll take that off. But speed and quality are really things that this speaks to, and there's some really, really early tangible benefits. We've spoken about volume, so those numbers speak to volume, but I really want to get into quality, because obviously increasing volume is not what this is about. It's about increasing quality of volume. So maybe just touch on that, because I'm sure people online will want to hear it as well. And we were quite obsessed with this when we first engaged about, we don't want to just increase the number of candidates looking for jobs, and we don't want to just, if that's not quality, right? So maybe just touch on that, if you will, Moussa, for a little bit. Where did the conversation start about quality? How did we ensure what we were building was going to deliver quality for employers, quality for job seekers? And how are we doing that today?
Yeah, quality is a nebulous kind of adjective. It's a fuzzy term from a centralized perspective to kind of nail down what exactly quality is, because you said the right thing. It's highly subjective, and on one sense, you can say, well, it's very black and white. The job in question has a set of criteria, and if the candidate meets that criteria, then they're a quality candidate. But I can attest for countless times I've asked business leaders if they've for instance hired someone who they consider to be slightly less suitable for a job over someone who's more qualified for a job. And, they would say, sure, I've done that many times. And that, that could be through any number of reasons. It could be because, you had a referral from someone you trust. It could be you just had a nice vibe or energy from someone.
Yep.
And actually, one of my mentors several years ago told me, he said, if someone wants to come and work for me, he said, like, if they really want the job, if they want to work in this business and they want to work for me, he said that's 50% of their suitability done.
Yeah.
Oh, totally agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
You can't teach attitude, right?
Yes. So that there's always going to be a component of quality that is outside of what's on paper and on the profile on the CareerOne display of a candidate.
Yep.
That being said, our job is to create connections between candidates and employers as quickly as possible. So, one thing that would be really frustrating, right, is that if it would take a lot of time and effort to find people that meet those black and white criteria, such that, by the time you get to interview them and really find out if they're the right fit, you're not really getting through many candidates in order to find the right person. So what we want to do is we want to deliver a silver platter of candidates that meet all the criteria on paper of quality. And then we sort of don't have the hubris or arrogance to then say that, like, what you do as an employer in terms of your hiring process, that is very important to you, because ultimately this is a human being that you're going to have to work with. 95% of roles in the Australian market are still involving a person showing up to your business.
Yep.
So ultimately, at some point, the candidate needs to come off that digital ontology, that
digital landscape.
right, and they need to enter into the real world, and that's where
I go back to thinking about Tron
right.
whenever we think about this. Right?
Tron,
Like,
right.
Jeff Bridges' voice is stuck in my mind.
Yeah, yeah. So, another aspect of quality is that because it's so subjective, and because particularly with the semantic interpretation of resumes and AI sort of playing its role, is very, very new in the market at the moment. And we have to tread carefully, and we have to be sort of humbling ourselves in terms of the products that we put to market at all times. Just throw in a random anecdote, which I love to use, is that I'm a big car enthusiast, by the way, everyone. The Porsche 911 GT3, right? It's considered largely one of the best driver's cars of all times. Between 2013 and 2018, Porsche decided to get rid of the manual gearbox and just offer an automatic, the PDK. And the reasoning, their rationale behind this, they said because the automatic gearbox is a few seconds quicker around the track, right? Now, their customer base were up in arms for years about this, and since 2019, they've reintroduced manual gearboxes. And you take that as an example, right? So here's a company, one of the leading automobile companies in the world, thinking that technology is going to progress them forward in a certain way, and then through that exercise, starting to understand their customer base better, such that they can then optimize how and where that technology best fits. And I think we're going to go through this with AI and recruitment.
Yep.
AI has the capability to, you take it to its natural conclusions. It has the capability to do everything for you as a recruiter. Now, whether or not that's ultimately going to lead to better outcomes, we're going to see the market decide that. And I think, because we're going to touch on these a little bit later, I hope, that one of the key factors of recruiters and talent acquisition people is actually their people skills. And AI, I don't think yet negates that brilliant skill set that needs to be applied when finding the right person to work for your organization.
So keeping on the quality theme, Jack.
Yep.
That's from Moussa's explanation from a business point of view, from a career point of view. Like, bring the tech into it. Like, how do you ensure that those numbers that we spoke about, which largely speak to volume, what elements of the tech, the AI, the product that we've built essentially, actually talk to and touch that aspect of quality to ensure that okay, if it is 8x,
Yep. It's not 8x in volume.
correct.
It's 8x in
Correct.
quality.
Like just
Right.
just please touch around the specific technology side of it.
So I briefly was just touching on. Oh, sorry, I was briefly talking about the data points that we're capturing. I also didn't touch on the data points we're capturing around jobs, right? So it's not just oh, you've got a data field around location that matches this location for a role. We then actually pass it through a number of different, we'll call it filtering and boosting of data points as well. And so when we're talking about that 8x match, for example, or that 65%, we're talking about the quality of those matches as well also coming through.
So it's true to say that the increase is increased quality. It's just baked into the volume.
We couldn't sit there and say, yeah, we've given you 8x, or 8 times the amount of jobs that you're getting matched to. It's also based on the quality of the matching and filtering that we're doing. So it's not just the match, but we've also, introduced the concept of we'll call it a loose scoring of about what we'd say about a 93% match, and then we take that cohort and then we filter them again as a tight score, about a 97% match. And the reason it's not a 100% match is 97 is close enough. It doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be a good enough match to be able to provide some level of variancy or some level of choice that when we do get that human back in the loop, when we do get that recruiter or that personable action, we're not discounting someone who's not an exact match, right? It's perfect is the enemy of good. And so in this case, we've realized, a tight match is good enough. And so with that filtering, that's the quality aspect that we're seeing. And that's why we're actually driving that 65% or that 8x match.
Okay. I'm going to stick with the quality thing because I've got another question I just thought of. So as we move forward and as we start to build out more of these products and see more results and the volume increases and everything, like how do you as a business, Moussa, measure quality? Is it feedback from your customers, be that candidates or employers paying to post a job ad? Like what are some of those metrics? Is it simply customer feedback? Are there things on your end that you measure and go, yes, this is not just increasing volume, it is actually increasing volume? Is that just a customer feedback thing, or are there other metrics you look at to say it's not just increasing volume, it is increasing quality?
To now, for many decades as a job board, you have to rely on customer feedback around how many placements they make from your candidates you drive. And that's not always on offer from every one of our clients. As we roll out the new hiring portal, so for anyone listening, a lot of the matching technology on the hiring side is in the plumbing at the moment. In a couple of weeks, you'll be able to actually experience a new hiring portal that will actually allow you to take a candidate through to interview stage, as well as really low funnel actions that you can perform with the candidate. And we'll be able to track those directly. So ultimately speaking, CareerOne is going to start to tap into some of those really meaningful interactions you have with candidates. A lot of job boards, and I don't say this with any disdain, I mean, even the biggest and best in the world in terms of job boards, Indeed, is what they're really about is just passing someone through their business in a really transactional way. So they want to get traffic from whatever sources they get it from, and then they want to pass it to their clients, and really they sort of dust their hands once that's done. Right. So CareerOne, and this will probably be felt by employers, is that what you might find is that CareerOne is actually representing these candidates in market, and we have a mission to take a long-term view on their career, and we know that every few years they'll be looking for another job, and there will be a huge difference in the
we
user experience.
essentially becoming that individual's personal recruiter.
Okay, we're going to get to questions in a second because I can see lots of questions coming through. One theme I want to just push you both on is I've spoken publicly about revolution, not evolution. We're quite passionate here at Decidr. It's one of our values of the business that we are reimagining work. We are reimagining and building things that just change the way people work. I'm conscious of the fact that we are at stage one of this, and we've seen some really, really good tangible results of what what we're doing with CareerOne. But I'm interested in your version of AI for recruitment specifically. Like, what's next? Like, what's coming? It feels like we've just scratched the surface. We're at a grain of sand. But like, where do you see it going? Like, 12 months, 3 years? Like, what's next? And what's the holy grail, if you like, of recruitment? And then we'll throw it over to you, Jack, and talk about more broadly about Decidr, how we think about those things.
Yeah.
But we'll start with CareerOne. We've started. We've got some great results. What's next?
Well, this is a very sort of opinionated opportunity for me to
Please share with the group.
Yeah. Obviously, it's impossible to perfectly predict the future. I suppose from someone inside the industry, as we are in CareerOne and Decidr are kind of touching into that space now, we can have a look at the trajectory of the technology coming into this space, and we can have a look at the direction it's heading, and we can infer some of the natural conclusions that we're going to be heading towards. And one example I like to give is that we can all remember once upon a time when resumes and CVs had to be handwritten.
Yeah,
right?
I do remember that.
Right. So
I think I'm a little bit young for that approach.
Okay,
It always
maybe
came
not.
off a computer for me. My apologies.
Well, not handwritten, even typed up yourself. But ultimately, people had to write their resumes with a view that this resume was going to be read and consumed by the hiring manager. And then we saw the evolution in the space where obviously parsing technology and a layer of technology would first read that resume for keywords, right? So keywords used to be a very important bit of resume advice that you'd give to someone. Sure, you're handwriting your resume, but ensure you have these keywords repeated to get through the machine stage. And then we evolved again to today, where people are largely using LLMs and ChatGPT to write their resumes.
Insert AI model X.
Right, insert AI model X. Yep.
Yeah.
So we've seen this evolution 1, 2, 3. Now on the flip side, the person consuming those resumes has gone from basically reading them in detail. And when you read a resume that's been written by a particular person, there's an authorship there. So the resume is telling you something about how that person has written the resume.
Yep.
There's more than just the words on the page. So it's part of the, I guess, selection criteria to say, hey, this is a quality candidate. This resume stands out compared to other people. As we've progressed now to current day, there's a sort of democratization, normalization of the quality of resumes that we're going to progressively see as LLMs write them.
Yep.
And that means it's no longer a deciding factor. In fact, human beings, I can attest for this myself, are not even the ones reading the resume. You chuck the resume into the LLM, so the LLM wrote it, the LLM reads it.
Yep.
And ultimately, what we're getting down to is just the criteria between the two parties that's kind of getting pushed into the resume and then pulled out of the resume. Where that's naturally heading, and that was a long story to get there, is that resumes are actually, in my view, becoming redundant and obsolete. So they're not being written, they're not being read, and they're only being used for the criteria baked within them. So that's an example of how AI is impacting this industry. And, that works perfectly with our model, because ultimately what we want to do is we want to say to a candidate that we're going to go ahead and put you forward to roles in a tailored manner. It doesn't require a resume. We'll have a conversation about what you're looking for. And then the person consuming that candidate, again, doesn't have to read CVs, can quickly understand how they match and connect with that person straight away. So probably have 100 other examples if we have time, but yeah, one example.
Good. Thank you. And Jack, maybe just touch on Decidr. We are very focused on AI in recruitment today and transforming recruitment with AI, but there are other...
Being the subject of the chat.
Correct.
Yes, absolutely.
But I know there are people on the call who are not necessarily from the recruitment space.
Yep.
So just maybe touch for a couple of minutes on,
where else are we working?
What else is going on? Where else is the value that we see? I mean, I have these conversations every day across the full range of verticals in the industry, but I'm very much at the coalface of those first conversations. You're at the other coalface, which is actually building solutions, right? So I'm interested in your view of, excuse me, where this is going, other value that we're seeing,
Yeah, absolutely. And this quite strongly aligns with Decidr's goal as a business as well, is to touch on those points. Like where recruitment is probably the first opportunity that's presented itself to us with the partnership with CareerOne. We're also deep in the marketing space. We're also very deep in HR. As it naturally leads itself. We're also very deep into education, and we're starting to flirt with around the financial space there as well. To touch briefly on the convergence of a few of these systems coming together, a few of these markets coming together. So we're talking about recruitment, right? When we're also talking about, let me throw the hypothetical of I'm a candidate, I'm looking for a role, and this solution tells me, hey, you just missed out. You were missing one of these key skills. There was a bunch of other candidates that had this key skill, and you unfortunately just missed it. Now, imagine signing in or jumping onto that platform and say, hey, sorry, Jack, you've just missed out on this role, but we can give you a education stream, pathway, platform, curated content that not only here's the content to go and consume, but then come back and talk to us about this content so we can help poke holes in your understanding and conceptualization of this idea. And if that's all hunky dory, we'll add that skill. And so the next time one of these roles comes up, you will be a top match. That's a convergence of both recruitment and learning. And then we start talking about a HR system. So I'm a business, I'm Duncan. I've got a lot of staff under my purview, and I want to know not only the titles of these staff members and I get to know them from a fit perspective, but what skills do they have?
Yeah.
And I've got a staff member saying, hey, I want to go from my title of a junior PM to just a senior PM. Great, here's the skills delta, and here's a injection of that learning piece. And then I can also then begin to see what does that skill delta look like, not only internally, but also out in the market. So I'm getting a true and accurate and a live representation of that. And so there we start talking about convergence of recruitment and learning, and then also HR systems involved. And then we start talking about finances. If a CFO is going, great, I've got this staff member with this role, with these skills, what's the market value of that? And so you can start to see, and the reason I'm tying this back to Decidr's view is right now in market, and if you look at a number of our other calls or talks or videos, a lot of the AI solutions in market are vertical. I'm solving one problem. I'm solving recruitment, or I'm solving learning, or I'm solving, problem X. Decidr's core vision is that we want to go and solve the horizontal problem. How do we help you become a business where you get insights from across the business? And then this is touched on in a few other discussions. You'll hear a word like a SaaS tax, and that's just a nice word for how many different SaaS products does a business have to buy, and then the tax is I've got to buy 20 for all of this. Decidr's looking to solve a horizontal solution to multiple different problems that are presented against every business. And so, hopefully that answers your question there, Duncan, about multiple industry approach and then being able to solve that for.
I'll just add that I can completely attest to Decidr's ability to really understand an industry from the inside out, and just the speed at which Jack and a lot of the team members actually that we've interacted with from CareerOne, Decidr has been able to take this by the collar and really find out the best ways to apply AI into our business. And, the recruitment space has very, very tough, unique challenges around semantic understandings of candidates and employers. And you guys have been brilliant. So
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that's a good example, good, interesting example. I think in summary, it's using that candidate you spoke about who does apply, fails, so to speak, but wants to go back. There are other customers that Decidr is working on other products that can help that candidate, be it education, you said as an example, right? That can then help that person upskill, whatever they need to do to actually go back into the market, which is not something that a person would typically think about, right? So
I think about myself in this scenario years ago, wanting to change my career path into product. I had no idea how to do it. I had nobody really to talk to. And this is 2016, right? Like social media wasn't that big, LinkedIn wasn't really a thing. You had to know somebody who had that job
Yeah.
that could point you in
Yeah,
that direction.
yeah.
Like I caught a really lucky break, but I also think about it like how could I have made that a smoother path for me?
Yeah. I
And
mean,
like
typically you
education
might,
touches on that.
you get a negative experience from a job interview. You don't get it. You might tell a couple of your friends, but you don't necessarily get that
Yeah.
additional 1 or 2 skills that you need,
Yeah.
right,
Hey,
to
you
go
were
back
actually
into
just
the.
missing this one thing,
Sure.
and that's what made you miss out.
Okay, thank you. We're going to segue into questions. We can see that there's quite a lot coming through. I'll start with Banjo. Banjo is the product on
Yes.
CareerOne website. You can
Yeah.
go and you can play around with Banjo. Whose idea was the name Banjo? Who's responsible for that? I mean, it's a very Aussie name, of course, but who's responsible? Is it either of you guys or is it somebody else, or we don't know?
Do you have the word history or the name history of that product?
I do, and
Please,
it
because
came.
I think I started here and someone's like, oh yeah, we'll get talking about Banjo, and I can't remember who it was, and I looked at them like, I'm pretty sure I joined an AI company, not a band. Like, what do we?
um,
So, Moussa, tell us the
Go on,
background
mate.
of Banjo, please.
look, I don't like to take credit for it, but it came from this very mind
you-
that's
but you
speaking to
will.
right now. And actually, if you want proof that I did think of it, I actually initially thought of it as an acronym, which is bringing about new job opportunities, BANJO.
Beautiful.
We love the sound of it. Obviously, it's steeped in Australiana.
Yep.
And has a lovely ring to it. There's also some level of anagram around the word job, and
Yep.
that's baked into the word as well. So we love the way it sounds. We needed a way to personify this agent that is going to be on your side,
Yep.
never sleeping, putting you forward to jobs in market. And
Yep.
we fell in love with Banjo. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Beautiful.
That was a better explanation and story than I expected, actually.
Yeah, no,
So well done.
That was great.
Thank you.
Congratulations for taking credit for it.
Cool.
Yeah, so you can go on. It's there on the website now. It's powered by Decidr and it's doing its job. And there's some of those numbers we spoke about. So let's get into some questions, maybe something a bit more detailed. I'm going to start with you, Moussa. One question. How confident are you in the value of each candidate? So we did touch a little bit on quality, but this is a specific question that came through. How confident are you in the value of each candidate and the ability to match candidates with jobs over and above what an experienced recruiter can do?
Very confident in the fact that we can present matches very quickly, probably orders of magnitude faster than a recruiter manually searching through a database. Matches, again, subjective, and the value that each candidate possesses in the eyes of each individual recruiter.
Is that the number one success metric for your business? Matches, number of matches, or is it quality of matches? Or are they two different things?
They're very intertwined, those
Yep.
two things.
Yep.
No one wants to see any low quality matches. So any
Yes.
number of matches needs to be quality matches. And, not to sort of stress the issue too much, but there's often a sort of mindset that comes with the way that you're hiring someone for your business. And people, particularly hiring managers, need to be very discerning as to how they view candidates, and they can be very critical and completely understandable as to why they would be. Earlier in this chat, Jack spoke about, I think you said the Hunter Valley is, it's common that people might travel a couple of hours to get to a job in the CBD in the city, right? So from the candidate's perspective, they're living in the Hunter Valley for any number of reasons.
Yep.
They understand that the jobs that they're looking for are in the CBD, some ways away. Now, you take that scenario and you put that candidate in front of an employer who has a job in the CBD. The employer could literally hand wave that candidate at a glance and say, why the hell are you matching me with someone who's,
all the way out
150 kilometers away, right?
Right.
Yep.
So herein lies a particular challenge that we've created a solution for, which is that it's our job to articulate why that particular candidate is a suitable match for this job. And, that presents a challenge for us, but AI is helping us immensely in that process. And this is around our mantra of tailoring applicants to roles. is that we have to build up a person from the ground up as to be a match for the role, not tailor as an afterthought.
Has to come from the first step.
Right. And actually, if you are probably not the most qualified to speak about this, maybe our CTO is, but if you look at the architecture of how we hold and present candidates in our back end, Sonia, the receptionist, and Sonia, the cleaner, are almost two different people that we can present in a completely unique way. And if this person, Sonia, has experience as a commercial cleaner and experience as a receptionist, we don't want to say, here's Sonia, she's a cleaner with receptionist experience. Nor do we want to say, here's Sonia, she's a receptionist with cleaning experience. These are almost like two unique entities that will be presented to the right person at the right time. So yeah, just an example.
I'll get to you in a sec, Jack, but I just want to.
Let him keep talking.
I just want to. We are specifically talking about recruitment today, and there's another question come through which is specific for you, Moussa. Barriers. I kind of asked Jack a little bit before, but I'm specifically talking about recruitment now. What are the biggest barriers preventing wider adoption of AI in recruitment? So if you think about, what's going on outside of CareerOne, or maybe even some tangible feedback from CareerOne, what are the biggest barriers preventing wider adoption, and how can companies, overcome them? There's some recruiters listening on the call. There's some other businesses on the call, but let's stick with recruitment for a sec, and then we'll widen it. But what are some of those barriers that are preventing people like starting to have those conversations, but actually figuring out where to start, where to build solutions with AI? What are some of those barriers, do you think?
There's so many aspects to answer this question. Part of the limited adoption is just the fact that, up until very recently, AI itself, wasn't as evolved as what it is today. And it's certainly picking up in the mainstream, more than it was sort of a few years ago. To be honest, for anyone on the call who's familiar with the RecTech space, you would know that AI has been used in things like applicant tracking systems and other technologies out there that support recruiters. But sort of harking back to one of the first things I mentioned is that the use of AI in a platform is not necessarily going to be the differentiator moving forward. What will be the differentiator is what that AI can do for you. So on one side of the spectrum, you could have recruitment technology that, just simply sort of uncovers a result set for you. And that result set is using AI to establish that. And that's very helpful because that can bring you a search result very quickly. It's a whole nother ball game when there's an AI operating in the background trying to achieve something for you in the real world. And that's an example of how Banjo is fundamentally different to how we've used AI in the past, or how recruitment technologies use AI in the past. Now, one of the interesting things about this concept is that there has to be a certain threshold of trust and reliability in that. I was thinking about it this morning. I don't know why it came to my mind, but we've all heard this concept of like self-driving cars, right? And if you're about to get into a self-driving cab or taxi, and someone told you that it's about 80% safe, it's about 85% effective, you probably wouldn't risk it, right? Because
I've been in a few cars convinced that the driver's not 80% safe.
Right, exactly. So what we're talking about here is that AI is going to get to a level that's going to be trusted enough and reliable enough for you to actually structure your business around it. To now, I'd say one of the limiting factors around adoption is that it's kind of just there, and it has been something novel and definitely getting a lot of attention. But as to whether or not you change your day-to-day processes as a recruiter, or you would, as a business owner, change your org structure around AI, I think we're just touching into that space now. CareerOne as a hiring solution, C1 AI on the hiring side is what we're going to instigate there. You see, when you start to use that, that actually negates the need for things like applicant tracking systems. So then once that is relied upon, you can actually start to restructure your business around that concept.
Yep.
And yeah, I think we're going to get there very soon
Yep.
before people know it.
We're in the trust building phase.
I'll touch on barriers myself a little bit because we have these conversations with various different verticals across the whole space. I already mentioned it today already, which is sentiment. If the business has sentiment to do something and they've moved on, they know that AI can do something for them, but they're not sure where.
Yep.
That's the biggest barrier. I do find the number one question we get asked is, where do we start? We know it's a thing. We know it can help. We know we've got repetition. We know we've got manual workflows. We don't know where to start. My advice to businesses would be, you can do that yourself. We have an AI hit squad in our business that comes and does this, but you can do this yourself. That is usually with the founder or the CEO, somebody who knows the business, the P&L, somebody on the technical side who knows the data. Data is the fuel for AI, so you need to know where that sits. That's not too complicated. And those two people in a room going through business strategy, the challenges of the business, any AI plans or thoughts you've got already, you can put those things together yourself as a business. We do this on a daily basis, but you can do it yourself as a business and put those things together, work out what are the options, the menu, the roadmap, if you like. And then ultimately those things together will come to, where is that place to start? Is it back office? Is it front office? Is it supply chain? So you can do that yourself. And that's the number one feedback we get. Jack, I might bring you in a second, and we're going to get to, we've got a few minutes left, but I want to get through some quick questions. I'm interested in a question we've had is on the team. So we've kind of simplified things a little bit. There's a few things we've been trying to get across today, but maybe you have done all this on your own. But I'm interested in the team, like when you're building solutions and the things we've done for CareerOne, like what does that team look like, both on both sides of Decidr and CareerOne? Like, is it, how many people are involved? What types of people involved? Think back to when this started, and the delivery. Is it just talk to me about the team it takes, the people it takes, the type of people it takes to actually get from an idea and a partnership to actually delivering results that are showing tangible.
Yeah, I'm always, despite my friendly outlook and demeanor, I'm always well aware that I am just a representation of a large group of people. I'm the face, unfortunately, for those of you who see me on camera, I am the face, but the team involved. So, wow, go back through it. We've had, met, I think I'll just rattle it off from a timeline view. My first day here, I then met Moussa and Tom on my second day. There's a CTO involved. There's a number of developers that have been also involved in executing on our side. A designer, Leah, who you know quite well. They've got the marketing team here at Decidr. We've got the sales team also here at Decidr. There's a large raft of people. I mean, even support from the CFO, yourself, Duncan, our chairman, our CEO. I am very well aware it's just I'm a visual representation, but there is almost the entire business has been involved at some point.
You're more substantive than that, Jack. Excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
And on the client side, like what does that look like? It's a team of people in the business, I get, in the Decidr business, but on the client side, is it one person, two people? Is it like, what does that look like? Or is it basically a balance of the number of people to actually make this succeed?
Yeah, so it's a good question. When we're saying client, we're saying the
I use CareerOne as an example. Yeah.
CareerOne. So any engagement, not only just in recruitment, but on these other industries that we've touched on, it obviously starts with someone like Moussa or Tome, and then we go and talk to their team, and it's their developers, it's their designers.
Sure. So it's product and developers on our side, product people and developers on the client side, and coming together.
And then coming together and going, hey, we've had a concept. Yep. Let's build an MVP.
Yep.
My job in product is, traditionally you'd say I'm the voice of the customer in the room. But also we want to go and test an idea in a market as quickly as possible, hence these positive outcomes that we're seeing. It takes a village to get a product idea out to market. It's not just a single individual who does it. And so I almost see when, that team I just touched on from the Decidr side is always reflected in the other business that we're working with or the partnership that we're working with. Okay. Because they must come together, our marketing team must work with theirs. Our development team must work with theirs. It's almost like looking in a mirror.
Okay. We are, as always, are running out of time, but we've got 3 quick questions. I'm going to push you very quickly, Moussa.
Okay.
Quick
I'll
fire
try to be
questions.
quick.
As I said to anybody who's joined on the call, if you did ask a question, I absolutely promise you we will get to it and we will respond to it after the call. Quick fire questions for Moussa. And these are all long form questions, so good luck with this. Looking ahead 3 to 5 years, what does recruitment look like with AI? Blue sky, what is it? Where's it going?
3 to 5 years, I think we are still dealing with humans in roles, showing up in person to job locations, with probably, that being impacted by a few percentage points of the workforce. I don't see any major shake-up in 3 years where, recruitment is not still handled ultimately at the lowest end of the funnel by a human being who needs to make that discerning decision.
Good. I think that's the number one thing.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying
Yep.
to get through these 2 questions. We've got 1 minute left.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
Success metrics, case studies. Like, is there 1 or 3 metrics that you look at for how this success is happening now and how it will go? Like,
Yes.
distill it down to 1 or 2 or 3 things, please.
One of the most important things we're looking at is when a candidate engages with us and they're looking for a job, is that how many jobs are they being put forward to in the market? This is one of the key metrics that shows us how we're representing a particular person in the market, and is going to trump how other job boards perform for candidates where they have to manually apply for each individual role.
Okay, good. We are out of time. As always, we ran out of time. I'll say again, we will get to your questions if we didn't get to it, because I had 1 more that I wanted to ask, but I'd like to just leave it with you to wrap up, Moussa. Firstly, I'll say thank you, Jack.
No problem.
Thank you, Moussa from
You're welcome.
CareerOne. We were talking about AI in recruitment. I think we learned a little bit about CareerOne. We learned a bit about what Decidr has done for CareerOne. We've talking about the results, and we're talking a lot about Blue Sky. But I'll let you wrap up if you like, Moussa.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say, obviously, for anyone listening in the talent acquisition space or recruitment space who is interested in our products, certainly watching it evolve very rapidly over the next couple of weeks as well. We'd love to have you in conversations at the moment. So you can reach us on hiring.careerone.com.au. I'm going to hopefully get an email out to all the listeners off the back of this this webinar. And we'd love to talk to you about our introductory rates to get you on board our product. I think, being one of the early adopters, you'll have a story to tell about how much of a difference this product is going to make in your talent acquisition. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
Final wrap up from me. The proof is in the pudding, people. So Banjo, it's on the CareerOne website. It's powered by Decidr. Get on, have a play with it. Would love to hear your feedback. We have some really, really interesting, tangible results which you spoke about. So we're very excited about it, but the proof is in the pudding. Get online, try it out, and see where you go. And if you're not in the recruitment space, reach out to us and we'll
Happily have a chat.
have a
Absolutely.
chat. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Moussa.
Thank
and
you,
thank
guys.
you, everybody online. And as I said, if we didn't get to your question, I promise we will follow up.